Hey, this is Jen coming to you not live because we still have our strike from CNN, and it won't be until the end of May that we can actually go live. But premieres are just as fun because you can still live chat and all of that. The only difference is it takes longer to prepare these because we have to record them in advance and then render them and then upload them, and it takes a while. Whereas going live, you just push the button and there you are. But I digress. So I actually spent a big chunk of this weekend at the Venezuelan embassy in DC, where there's a standoff and kind of a proxy mini war going on between the opposition, which are the Guaido supporters, and the embassy protectors, what they call themselves, which include groups like Code Pink and I believe they're called the Progressive Collective, but I'll need to look at that again. But it's headed up by Margaret Flowers. So she actually ran for Senate in Maryland in the past, and she's a big activist. And of course, you probably know of Code Pink because they've been around for a while, since Occupy, I believe it was, and they're involved in lots of different actions. But this one is major. So the background of what's happening at the Venezuelan embassy in DC is that so Maduro, the elected president in Venezuela right now, obviously has control of the embassy in DC. Now, the Guaido people think that should not be the case at all. So the Guaido people are outside of the embassy protesting, banging pots and pans, running sirens, blowing into blowhorns, yelling into megaphones, doing everything they can do to cause a noise, cause ruckus. They've even tried to break into the embassy. Now, inside the embassy, there are currently no ambassadors or anything like that. What's in there are what are called the embassy protectors. They call themselves the peaceful embassy protectors. So they're in there. Margaret Flowers is one of them, if you want to find her on Twitter. And Medea Benjamin has been inside. Ariel Gold has been inside. Those are two Code Pink girls. And I don't know how many are inside the embassy right now. I guess around 10. So they're inside the embassy, and surrounding the embassy are supporters of the peace protectors, or the opposition, which are the Guaido supporters. So these are often wealthy Venezuelans who have come to the United States, and they believe that Guaido is the official leader, or should be able to take the place of Maduro. And this is obviously also the stance of the United States, unfortunately, and a number of other countries. I believe it's 50 countries now recognize Juan Guaido as the leader, whereas the elected leader is Maduro. So that's kind of the background on that. So what I saw there was a lot of shenanigans, and I'll play some of those shenanigans for you. As I said, the opposition, the Guaido side, was trying to break into the embassy by banging on it, trying to drill through to get inside. And mind you, there are Secret Service and police everywhere outside of the embassy. They're covering it everywhere. And from what I saw and from what's been reported, they are actually on the side of the Guaido people. They won't help the embassy protectors. They've done a lot of shady things, including what I heard today from reporter Alex Rubenstein, who is embedded inside with the embassy protectors, is that they cut down trees that embassy protectors were posting or hanging signs on in support of not having a coup. And that is what this is. It's a coup attempt. Now, the Guaido side will tell you, oh no, this is not a coup because Guaido is the recognized leader, so of course it can't be a coup. But it is a coup. It's most definitely a coup, and it's yet another one where the United States has its hands in regime change, and there are no two ways about it. So as I said, Secret Service and police stand aside and do nothing. They've arrested peace protectors who are doing nothing but being peaceful. The opposition side has assaulted Code Pink people, embassy protectors, and yet those are the ones who get hauled off to jail. I was, when I was there reporting, I was harassed by the opposition. They were, while I was reporting, like tapping me on the back. When I turned around, they called me ugly and then denied it and said, no one wants to touch you, denied tapping me on the back and blew air horns in my ear, shine lights in my face, like strobe light flashing, which, by the way, is a health concern. You might say, oh, assault via light is nothing. But really, for people with epilepsy, for people with migraines like me, I get migraines, it's very triggering. And for people who are on the spectrum as well, it can be very triggering to have these lights flashing and flashing in your face. And so while I tried to interview peace protectors, they were flashing the lights during our interview. They were ripping posters out behind me. And so I actually had to cut an interview short, for example, and that was the only one I was able to conduct with one of the peace protectors, because all day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., where the noise ordinances land, it's far too noisy. There's music playing, there's people shouting into those bullhorns and things like that, as I described. So it's quite a scene at the embassy. There are rumors that the police plan to go in and raid the embassy. And even now, the police are not making the opposition step aside or clear an area so that people can get food into the embassy. And that's one of the biggest concerns, is that people inside the embassy need food, medications, and things like that, toiletries. And it's been a major ordeal trying to get those things inside. What they've had to implement is kind of this pulley system where people at the bottom, the people at the top will throw a rope down, and people at the bottom who are allies tie a bag to the end of the rope, and then they have to pull the rope up to the top. So that's the only way they've been able to get food in there. But the people inside do seem to be in good spirits. It can't be easy. They have to deal with people trying to break in. They have to deal with the threat of raid. They have to deal with a lot of stuff. So that's where I was all weekend. There's more to it than that. I'll show you some video. And I actually have a lot of video footage that I haven't been able to upload yet, because for some reason it's taking forever to get the files uploaded and downloaded. That's a whole other story, but I will have that footage up for you because I think it's very important what's going on at the Venezuelan embassy and what's going on in Venezuela. It is a coup attempt, as I said, and who knows how it's going to end here in the United States at the proxy war at the embassy, or how it's going to end in Venezuela. This past Tuesday, there was a coup attempt by Juan Guaido and his supporters. And actually it failed. And what they tried to do was get Maduro officials on their side. So they secretly had talks with Maduro officials and convinced them that they could keep their jobs if they defected to the Guaido side and outwardly came out against Maduro and forced Maduro to flee. That was their goal. It did not happen. If you listen to the United States, it's Russia's fault that it didn't happen, of course. That Russia, at the last minute, convinced Maduro not to go, and he stayed. Who knows what actually happened behind the scenes? There are a lot of unknowns, but what we do know is that those Maduro officials decided not to come out against Maduro and not defect to the Guaido side, and so the coup just didn't happen. And there's a lot of backtracking from the Guaido side saying, oh no, that wasn't us trying to do anything. That was, the timeline was moved forward, and that's just the first step of many steps. And they're really trying to weasel their way out. And Guaido, by the way, is this 35-year-old who looks confused most of the time, and his statements, if you read them when he's interviewed by reporters and things like that, his statements are nonsensical. He does not seem to be much of a leading figure at all. He was installed. He used to be an activist. Now he's apparently the leader of Venezuela, when in reality he is not. He's recognized by a lot of countries, as I mentioned, but he is not the true leader, the true elected leader of Venezuela. And think what you want about Maduro. He is the elected leader, and if people want him out, then he needs to be democratically ousted and not ousted via a coup. And what a lot of people get wrong about the embassy protectors is not all of them are pro-Maduro. Maduro has made a lot of mistakes. He screwed up a lot, but he is democratically elected. So what people in the embassy protectors side are on is the side of peace, the side of negotiation, the side of democracy. The side of Guaido is on the side of a coup attempt, even if they refuse to call it that. I'll get into more of that later as I show you some of the clips and we talk about some of the recent developments going on there. I want to show you something that's super sad. Really, really sad. Hold on one second. There you go. There's the very, very sad thing. And it's Jordan. So he sent me this picture today to, I guess, evoke sympathy for his plight. If you'll remember, he got back surgery again, his second back surgery within a year. So he's now recuperating at home at his parents' house, and he's going he has cabin fever. He's going stir crazy. He's been watching a lot of documentaries and doing a little bit of work here and there, but his medication makes him so groggy and tired that he's not able to do much, and he's super bored. So this is his Send Jordan Sympathy picture. And if you feel sympathy for Jordan, give this live stream, this non-live stream, a thumbs up. Give it a like. Because the more likes we have, the more people see it. Also, to make this very, very sad Jordan happy, we would love for you to become a member. Become a member of Status Coup at statuscoup.com/join. Why should you become a member? Because there are tons and tons of special perks for you. You'll get behind the scenes video diaries. You'll get behind the scenes reporting. You'll get behind the scenes pictures. And basically, you will get a glimpse into the behind the scenes working of Status Coup on what's going on with the business and what's going on with our reporting. And you'll have a voice as well into what's happening in Status Coup. We have monthly video calls. We have lots and lots of really awesome perks for you waiting behind the scenes as long as you become a member. Remember, make this very sad Jordan happy. We are almost at 400 paid members in our membership area. So if you are not yet a paid member, you can join for as low as $5. So skip that one Starbucks coffee and you can become a member and get tons of great Status Coup stuff. statuscoup.com/join. Also, you will be sustaining us. We can't report and do the things that we need to do without you. We need you. We need your help. We need your dollars, to be quite frank, because we can't do this without you. It takes money to do this. We do not accept corporate cash. We do not accept corrupt cash. We are not backed by anyone but the people. So go to statuscoup.com/join and become a member today. It'll make Jordan happy, and I've promised him I will get it to 400 members for him while he is out and sick. So do me a solid, alrighty? So obviously I want you to become a member. I want you to smash that like button on this non-live stream. It helps more people see it. And those are the things that you can do to help Status Coup continue reporting. It takes money to do these things. Like I had to get some equipment to go to the Venezuelan protests and to the embassy in order to record better, because I don't have, ties on the West Coast, and it wasn't an official in-field trip. I just decided to go. I was on my own, so I needed some equipment in order to get there and do a good job. Like I have my phone, but I needed a special microphone attachment. I needed a light attachment. I needed a special, I needed a monopod. I needed another kind of holder for it. I needed a lot of stuff in order to do a good job of capturing everything that was happening at the embassy. So there's things like that pop up, and then we have our monthly expenses. We have to eat. We have to survive. So that's what your dollars go to. It doesn't go to funding. We aren't having wild parties or doing whatever. We are reporting. We are buying equipment. We are taking care of our memberships. Our hosting alone costs $185 a month because we have a dedicated server. Because of our video usage, we have a higher need for better hosting with more storage capabilities and things like that. So because we're a media company, we do have a lot of expenses. And thank you to everyone who supports us. Remember, we also have a GoFundMe. If you want to support us there, you can go to gofundme.com/status-coup-news and support us through the GoFundMe. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. I will remind you to become a member and to smash that like button more throughout the video. Jordan told me that I don't do it enough when I'm non-live. So that's what I'll be doing. Now, what I want to do is, because I know me talking about Venezuela and the Venezuelan protests at the embassy in DC is not really enough. I want you to see this interview that I did with someone named Mara. She's a lawyer for the Peace Protectors. She is an observer. She makes sure everything that's going on is legit. She's counsel there to kind of keep things smooth, to observe, to make sure that nothing egregious is going on. And she's wonderful. Interviewing her was quite great. But you'll see that the opposition side, the Guaido side, was shining lights in our face and was harassing me from behind and all sorts of things. So I had to cut the interview short. But what I did get was very good, and we'll give you some insight into what's going on there. So let me switch over and play this for you. Make sure my volume's all the way up so you can hear it. With Status Coup, and I'm with one of the lawyers who is here at watch outside the Venezuelan embassy, where the opposition is currently shining flashlights and causing all kinds of ruckus. And your name, I forgot to ask.
I'm Mara Verheyden Hilliard.
And I've seen you on people are sharing your stuff on Twitter. You're here to kind of watch over things that are going on. Is that correct?
I'm here defending the rights of the peace activists, the American peace activists who are lawfully present inside the building and who have been under siege from a right-wing vigilante mob for the last several days, with the facilitation and authorization of both federal and local law enforcement, allowing the mob to attack them personally and to attack the building.
And how are they doing inside? I saw that there's been difficulties getting food up to them and medications and things like that, but that there's some kind of rope pulley system now. Do they have their needs taken care of inside, the protectors that are inside?
Well, what's really happening is because the people inside are lawfully present, what the Trump administration and the federal law enforcement and local law enforcement have decided to do is to try and force them to leave on their own. Because obviously if they were not lawfully present, then they could take action to lawfully remove them. But instead, they've taken the extraordinary step of allowing these mobs to form, mobs that have physically assaulted people in front of law enforcement officers who do nothing, mobs that have been smashing on the doors. They were trying to smash into the building tonight, and that's why we're out here again, was to intervene and stop this effort. If these guys who are extremely violent, they've been issuing death threats and rape threats constantly to peaceful activists who are here. They get in the building, It's going to be extremely dangerous for the people who are present inside. And the other thing that the government is doing is they're trying to embargo them. They basically allowed them to create an illegal embargo blockade around this building to try and deprive people of food, of medicine. I mean, it's an extraordinary step when you have law enforcement acting in this manner to really facilitate mob violence and to try and force people out by depriving them of food, of medicine, of the things that they need. And obviously, if the law was on their side, they could take legal action. But in the absence of legal process, they are taking completely illegal actions against the people here.
And just now we were having the flashlights shown in our face again. It seems like there are these kind of almost childish tactics to force you guys out, since all they can do is make noise and shine their flashlights. But I stood on the other side for about an hour and just observed and filmed. And from what I've seen, the side behind the barricades, and let me kind of show everyone, you guys have this protected area. There's been no cursing, no yelling, just standing here peacefully. Is that kind of the way that you guys want to present yourselves as the protectors?
Well, the peace activists have in fact been peaceful. They've been very disciplined. They've been peaceful even in the face of physical assaults. They haven't responded as they would be within their rights to defend themselves very frequently. As you can see, while it's childish and pathetic, the light flashing, it's also really emblematic of this constant effort. They're always blaring sirens or flashing lights. What they're really incapable of doing is articulating anything more than the fact that they behave like thugs. And they have consistently behaved like thugs. And really, this is, we've seen the fake diplomat who's the representative of the fake ambassador here for the last 2 days. He even tried to smash into the pen over here when people were getting food up to the people inside. I mean, it's great diplomacy on his part. So it really tells you everything that there is to know about them. Like right now, they're trying to hold lights over your head while you're trying to interview me. Someone's holding a sign up and they're hitting the side.
No, I'm
So,
helping.
like you can see this, they're afraid. I mean, this guy is totally afraid to even allow you to talk to me. They're completely, they're, I'd say both thugs and pathetic thugs all at the same time, but they pose a real danger here. And I don't think it can be lost on anyone that law enforcement actually is watching this happen. They just watch this guy, behind you, grab the sign out of someone's hand. They didn't do anything. Now, you know that if anyone was to go protest at the French embassy over the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vest treatment, if anyone was to go protest at the Israeli embassy, the Saudi embassy, if anyone was to do anything that these guys have done, even for a split second, they would be in jail. But here, it's completely authorized by law enforcement.
That's one of the things that's been curious to me as I watched from afar, is that law enforcement is not doing their jobs, in my estimation. I mean, I saw that Ariel Gold and Medea Benjamin were assaulted again, and that the cops said unless everyone is arrested who was involved, that no one would be arrested. Is this kind of the consistent action from law enforcement here?
Well, when you say they're not doing their job, I know what you mean, but the fact is I think they are doing their job. Law enforcement is clearly under orders to allow this to happen. This is not, the normal way that they would quote-unquote enforce the law. So this couldn't be happening unless they were being directed to allow it to happen. That's what we know is going on right now. The State Department, the Trump administration, the Secret Service, they are directing this to happen.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'll let you go because the lights flashing can't be comfortable for you. Thank you.
I think we've gotten used to it. Thank you.
There you have it. Let me close this out. So what you just saw there was one of the legal protectors for the embassy protectors, and what she describes is completely accurate from what I observed. the police do nothing. And she was right when I said the police don't seem to be doing their jobs. Well, she was absolutely correct in saying, I know what you mean, but they are doing their jobs. It does seem like these orders are coming from the top. They're coming from somewhere that wants the Guaido side to be successful, and that would be the United States. As I said, the United States does not recognize the Maduro presidency. They recognize the Guaido coup attempt, and that's what we'll call it, as a coup attempt, even though you'll see that language being erased all over the place. And you can, even if you're just someone who's happening across the scene and you don't have, let's imagine you don't have a side, and you just walk to the Venezuelan embassy and observe what's going on both sides. What you will see are the Guaido supporters behaving erratically, irrationally, doing the lights, doing the sirens, physically hurting people, and you'll see the peace protectors being peaceful, as is in their name. And so it's easy to see which side you would want to be on: the side of peace, the side of reason, the side of wanting diplomacy and democracy, and not the side of a coup attempt. And Mara put that very, very well in what we talked about. So to show you a little bit more, and Mara called these people thugs as well, and I completely agree with that because of what I experienced. I'm a reporter, and as a reporter, I didn't, there are reporters that are embedded with the peace protectors, and I think that's great and wonderful and ethical, but I made the decision to be able to stand with both sides and observe both sides and see what's going on. I didn't announce, which side I was on. In getting that interview with Mara, I did tell them what kind of reporter I am and the stance that we at Status Quo take about this Venezuelan coup attempt, because I wanted her to know that I wasn't adversarial. I wasn't going to be one of those violent people, because they've dealt with enough. I wanted to make sure she knew who I was and what my kind of mission was. So, but otherwise, as I said, I stood with both sides. I didn't harass anyone. I didn't do anything other than film. So I want to show you this next video where you'll see that I am physically harassed. I am verbally harassed. And they don't want to allow my reporting. They didn't want me there at all. And I hadn't said a word. I just started filming. And then, of course, as people started tapping me and harassing me, I did speak back, and you'll see that. I remained calm, of course, but I wasn't just going to stand there and let them harass me just for being a journalist. So let's take a look at that clip. Let me start it over here.
They're paying you?
Trying to learn your journalism.
Don't touch me. Nobody wants to touch
So
me.
far, I've had wonderful interactions.
Nobody wants to touch you.
I'm ugly.
No, I said nobody wants to touch you.
Ah.
I don't care if you say you're ugly. I really don't care.
This is apparently.
Don't call her names. You're not helping our cause.
No. I never called her a name.
Let's say that we had a fine interaction.
No. I won't do that. You guys really like making things up, don't you? No, I'm not calling her.
Where I pan over, those are the peace protectors. So you can see on the right side of the barricades are the Guaido supporters.
You guys do not know what it is to go ahead and be in communism and camps and everything else. You know why? My mother spent over 10 years in a prison camp.
I don't think you have their.
So I really don't care about this. And you guys have no idea. in what goes on with socialism and communism.
Well, they don't even know why they're here. They're just
Well, they get
standing there.
paid. I mean, look at the blank faces. You're welcome. You have no idea.
No, seriously, how much are you guys being
I
paid?
mean, look at this guy. A blank face.
Philip's mother spent years.
Over 10 years in a Soviet prison camp. You have no idea what goes on. Where were you born?
Take a guess. You might already
No,
know.
no. Say, I don't
You might already know.
Just answer the question. Yeah. Numbnuts. Numbnuts. Take it. Oh, they responded. They all responded. You have no idea.
Bye-bye. How are you, darling? You look great. Smile. Smile. Say yes, cheese. Smile. Nothing, bitch. You racist. You very much racist, bitch. Oh, we in Venezuela don't have your division in here like we are having here, bitch.
Venezuelans have been very kind to me until this section. So I'm not really sure what's going on here.
You
I'm
racist.
literally standing here just filming
You
what's
guys
going on.
racist.
How much all these guys got paid?
I'm only wondering about this guy right here. So you're working for the embassy? Is that why you're here?
That's what socialism is. Socialism doesn't understand history. And it doesn't understand exactly. It's not real. It's not real. Yeah.
You guys are recording yourselves being guilty.
One of the things I like articles and reports and other organizations to educate the people out there about this sort of news so that they wake up.
There you have the wonderful time that I had there. And one second here. And you saw that I was called a racist bitch. I was called all sorts of names. Right before I started the video, I had been vigorously tapped on the shoulder by one of the Guaido people just for filming. And you could also hear that the Guaido people were telling the peaceful protesters, oh, you're paid, you're getting paid. Who's paying you? You know, look at the blank stares on your faces. How much are you getting paid? Which is ridiculous. These people are there because they are passionate about not having a coup in Venezuela. They aren't paid. There is one Guaido person who said that they must be getting paid $30,000 a year or something or $30,000 to come protest. Or to come be in the embassy, and that there were millions of dollars flowing through these peace protectors and all of that. I mean, it was ridiculous. The assumptions and the lies and the conspiracies that the Guaido people seem to believe only seem to fuel their anger, fuel their harassing of the peace protectors and journalists. I'm not the only journalist who was messed with. Basically every journalist, especially women who went there, were harassed with. I was catcalled. They would do the catcalling whistle and then go, these men. And I was actually surrounded by a group of men doing that at one point, which was super annoying. And they just seek to demean people, demean journalists, demean women. Other people, not journalists that I know of, but other peace protectors have gotten rape threats, death threats, things like that. Allegedly, one of the other journalists that was there, I believe the one from Telesur, she had her house tampered with. The door to her home tampered with after getting such a threat from one of the Guaido supporters. So these people are scary. There's no two ways about it. I'm sure some of them were nice. Some of the Venezuelan on the Guaido side were very nice to me. I actually conducted about a 16-minute interview with some of them, which was very interesting, and I will be posting portions of that. And they're good people. I hate that term. There are good people on both sides. I know that's a very dangerous term, but what I mean is there were people who truly believed that Guaido was the official leader and truly believed that Maduro is evil and are passionate because of that. And they peacefully are there in support of Venezuela and what they believe the path Venezuela should be headed down. There are other people who are just there to cause noise and wreak havoc and all that. There are other people there who are violent. There are other people there who are racist. There are other people there who are conspiracy theorists. There are a lot of people who were there, and you can't lump everyone together, but the fact that I was sexually harassed and verbally harassed and physically harassed as a journalist is obviously not okay. It's not okay for that to happen to anyone. And it seems to be the case for the journalists and peace protectors who are there daily. So there you have it. And I made a little note for myself to show you this again. There's Sad Jordan, who is out right now because he just had his second back surgery within a year. So his very sad picture is supposed to remind you to like this video, smash that like button, share it on your social media accounts. It really, really helps. Even if you only have a few followers, it really helps to get those links out there. And also become a member of Status Coup. You'll get tons of awesome perks. You'll get closer interaction with Jordan, Ty, and I, and Colin, and you'll get more input as to things we might cover. We'll never say we'll cover everything anyone asks for or everyone asks for. That's just not the case. We don't operate that way. But what we will do is consider your ideas, consider your research that you've gathered, things like that. You'll be able to talk to us on monthly video calls. So please go to statuscoup.com/join. That's statuscoup.com/join. We are only 9 members away from 400 paid members, and reaching that is my goal before Jordan comes back. He's actually challenged me to reach that goal. So help me out. Come on, guys. Help me get more subscribers to our membership so that Jordan's happy. We're teasing about him not being happy if this doesn't happen, but not happy with me, that is. He will be very sad if we don't get to 400. And that's partially because he loves, this truly is grassroots. He and I love the support from normal everyday people like you. That $5, $10, $20, or $170 per year, it helps us immensely. You'll be sustaining Status Coup, and you'll be getting great stuff. And it makes us happy to have members because it shows support. It gives us a boost in confidence as to what we're doing, because running a business like this, a media company like this, it's scary. Honestly, you don't know if it's going to succeed or fail. And I 100% believe that Status Coup will continue to succeed and go on to do even bigger and better things. For now, we're in the tiny growth stage, and that's okay. But the only way we're going to grow is with your help and support. And that's why we love you guys. statuscoup.com/join. There's more going on in Venezuela, and I want to show you one very interesting article by Anya let me see how to pronounce her name. Anya Parampol of Gray Zone. The Gray Zone is a great, if you aren't familiar with it, it's a great website. You should definitely check it out. But one of the things happening with Venezuela is this, and this was just published today, and it was the first I'd heard about it, so I definitely wanted to make sure that you heard about it as well. U.S. State Department publishes, then deletes sadistic Venezuela hit list boasting of economic ruin. The Gray Zone has obtained a list of key outcomes on Venezuela deleted out of apparent embarrassment by the State Department. It boasts of wrecking the nation's economy, destabilizing its military, and puppeteering its political opposition. Again, this is by Anya Parampil, and she says, on April 24th, 6 days before self-proclaimed Venezuelan interim president Juan Guaido's attempt to violently overthrow Venezuela's democratically elected government alongside a handful of military defectors, the U.S. State Department published a fact sheet that boasted of Washington's central role in the ongoing coup attempt. After realizing the incriminating nature of its error, the State Department quickly acted to remove the page. And that's another thing that I want to make extremely, extremely clear is how involved the United States is in this coup attempt. The bottom line is that the United States wants Venezuela's oil. And so just like in other countries and with other regimes, we are forcing regime change. The Gray Zone has obtained a full copy of the expunged report. The deleted page puts to bed any claims of Guaido's independence from Washington, as the State Department emphasizes the fact that he announced his interim presidency in January, at the top of a section dedicated to breaking down key outcomes of U.S. efforts with regard to Venezuela. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, Kimberly Breyer, recently took to Twitter to claim that, since he became acting president, Juan Guaido has given tangible results to the people of Venezuela. Her tweet was accompanied with an infographic detailing alleged accomplishments of the powerless coup administration based on data compiled by the legally defunct National Assembly, the only governing body actually controlled by Guaido. But the Venezuela fact sheet, posted and then deleted days earlier by the State Department, told a dramatically different story. The State Department's economic hit list. Entitled U.S. Actions on Venezuela, the document boasted that U.S. policy had effectively prevented the Venezuelan government from participating in the international market and has led to the freezing of its overseas assets. It read like a sadistic celebration of Washington's retribution against the Venezuelan population as a whole, the kind of collective punishment which is illegal according to Article 33 of the Geneva Conventions. The State Department gloated in the deleted fact sheet that its policy had ensured that the Maduro government cannot rely on the U.S. financial system to conduct business, noting key outcomes of U.S. actions include the fact that roughly $3.2 billion of Venezuela's overseas are frozen. It went on to boast that Venezuela's oil production fell to 736,000 barrels per day in March, substantially reducing government revenue. If I were the State Department, I wouldn't brag about causing a cut in oil production to 763,000 barrels per day, which is a 36% drop, in just the 2 months of February and March this year. Mark Weisbro, co-director at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, told the Gray Zone. This means even more premature deaths than the tens of thousands that resulted from sanctions last year. Weisbro recently co-authored a bracing report which found that 40,000 Venezuelans died between 2017 and 2018 as a direct result of U.S. sanctions. Now, the U.S. sanctions piece is something that the Guaido supporters completely deny have any effect on Venezuela. They say that, Venezuelans have been under Chavez and now under Maduro, that's the reason why people are suffering there and not U.S. sanctions. But clearly, with 40,000 deaths being caused by U.S. sanctions, they are an immense, immense problem and something that Guaido supporters really need to pay attention to. While the State Department praised one second here. I skipped a little piece. The State Department patted itself on the back for announcing its preparedness to provide an additional $20 million in initial humanitarian assistance to Venezuela. However, the CEPR report concluded that the Trump administration's sanctions implemented in August 2017 resulted in a loss of $6 billion in oil revenue over the ensuing year alone. While the State Department praised the opposition for providing medical and hygiene attention to over 6,000 Venezuelans, those numbers dwarf in comparison to the 300,000 people CEPR estimated to be at risk because of lack of access to medicines or treatment, including 80,000 people with HIV who have not had antiretroviral treatment since 2017. 16,000 people who need dialysis, 16,000 people with cancer, and 4 million with diabetes and hypertension. In other words, the supposed Venezuela crisis response assistance touted by the State Department is not even a band-aid over the gaping wound that U.S. unilateral coercive measures have inflicted on the country. In Wisebro's view, the policy and outcomes promoted by the State Department in the disappeared document will merely lead to more cuts in imports of medicine, food, medical equipment, and inputs necessary to maintain water, health, and sanitation infrastructure. Having denied the Venezuelan government the ability to provide for its own population, the U.S. has essentially promised that thousands more deaths will occur. The State Department did not respond to the Gray Zone's request for a comment on the fact sheet it deleted. So that's another important point. With these sanctions, more people are going to die, more people are going to suffer, and it's also giving another reason, these sanctions are giving more and more reasons for certain Venezuelans, the Guaido supporters, to blame Maduro for what's going on, for the healthcare failures, for the food failures, and even blaming socialism itself for what's happening, rather than blaming U.S. sanctions and related measures. A list of confessions. In a recent interview with the Gray Zone, Venezuela's ambassador to the United Nations, Samuel Moncada, characterized the deleted State Department fact sheet as a list of confessions. Imagine if any other country says, "It's proud of saying that we are destroying the economy of our neighbor. We are proud that we destroyed the political system of our neighbor. We are proud that they are suffering. They are saying we are waging war against Venezuela," Moncada emphasized. The ambassador went on to accuse the U.S. of engaging in bullying rather than international diplomacy. I don't need to read this entire thing to you. You get the idea. So the fact that they deleted this document shows an amount of guilt, and the facts in the document clearly show that the pro-democracy side is in the right. Those U.S. sanctions are crippling. The United States has its hand in yet another attempt at regime change. Just to make you a little bit angry, let's see what Rachel Maddow has to say about Venezuela now. This is also on the Gray Zone. As I said, a great website you should check out. Rachel Maddow endorses regime change in Venezuela to push Russia back, sympathizes with Bolton and Pompeo. This is by Aaron Mate, who we've had on Status Quo and who is great. The top-rated MSNBC host took her trademark brand of liberal militarism to new levels by branding efforts to avert a catastrophic war against Venezuela as, what else? Colluding with Russia. The loudest voice among the corporate media hack pack doubling down on Russiagate conspiracies is MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. On May 3rd, Maddow took her propaganda to an entirely new level of militaristic cheerleading, launching into a rant that offered de facto encouragement for the current neocon cause du jour, regime change in Venezuela. Maddow not only cast Trump as a Russian stooge for daring to discuss and possibly de-escalate the Venezuelan crisis with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the top-rated liberal cable news host expressed sympathy for John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, the most militaristic members of the Trump administration, which is absolutely ridiculous. Since the Trump administration first launched its coup attempt against the government of President Nicolas Maduro in January, Maddow and other conspiracy theorists have done their best to ignore it. For one, acknowledging this brazen coup effort would show their hyperventilation about the Russian attack on our election to be a hypocritical farce. It is far more difficult to liken stolen emails and juvenile Russian social media posts to Pearl Harbor or 9/11 when your supposedly defenseless country is openly trying to overthrow a foreign government via lethal sanctions, popping up the coup plotters, and trying to trigger a military revolt. Furthermore, the Trump administration's coup attempt in Venezuela is yet one more development that undermines the notion of Trump and Putin secretly colluding to destroy American democracy. Indeed, Venezuela is one more site of U.S. and Russian conflict, with Trump presiding over an unprecedented escalation of tensions. Let's skip down to here. As I documented in a recent Twitter thread, meaning Aaron Mate, so check out his Twitter, Maddow has been leading purveyor of now debunked Trump-Russia conspiracy theories, falsehoods, and innuendo of the last 2+ years. Looking back, I should have mentioned that Maddow has also been a vocal promoter of unhinged propaganda that encourages perilous tensions with Russia and cultivates pro-war opinion among her base of extremely suggestible liberal viewers. When Maddow finally broke her silence on Venezuela, it was on May 3rd, after Trump held a phone call with Putin to discuss, among other things, lowering the temperature on Venezuela. The diplomatic contact between two world leaders should have been considered routine, but in the feverish world of liberal conspiracism, it was another opportunity for hallucinatory claims of collusion and the posting of homophobic Trump-Putin memes on social media. And Maddow, this is what she has said. Even though this whole administration spent all week saying that Russia was interfering in Venezuela and propping up the Venezuelan dictator there, turns out President Trump now says Putin isn't doing that at all because Putin told him so. And so, hey, John Bolton and hey, Mike Pompeo, are you guys enjoying your jobs right now? You each thought your job this week was to name, shame, and threaten and counter Russian government involvement in Venezuela while saber-rattling about how everybody else better get out of the way because the U.S. is really mad about it. Guys, turns out your actual job is figuring out how and why you work for a president who says whatever Vladimir Putin tells him. Maddow went on to offer empathy for National Security Advisor John Bolton, noting that he had just told CNN this week that the Russians like nothing better than putting a thumb in our eyes and that their behavior is unacceptable to us. Maddow went on to mock Bolton, not for his hawkishness, but for the public incongruity between his stance and President Trump. Maddow tweeted, "How do you come to work anymore if you're John Bolton?" Maddow says, "Yeah, you thought that was your job, but not at all. Not after Vladimir Putin gets done with President Trump today. This is who you're working for. You thought your job was to push Russia back because of what they're doing in Venezuela. The president spent an hour on the phone with Vladimir Putin today. Putin told him he's not in Venezuela, so now the new position of the U.S. government in Venezuela." It doesn't surprise you, I'm sure, that Maddow is taking a hawkish stance. It would have surprised you years ago, probably, because back then Maddow was kind of a progressive hero, and now she is, let's say, colluding with John Bolton and friends. And it's disgusting, and you know, years ago I would have been shocked that this is her position. But she's so blinded by Putin and Russia that she doesn't see that she is pushing for regime change. She's pushing for war. She is not pushing for diplomacy and free and fair elections, you know, democracy in Venezuela. And let's see what our good friend Joe Biden has to say about this next. So this is actually a tweet by Alina, I'm not sure how she pronounces it, from Telesur, and it is of Ariel Gold, who is of Code Pink, and they actually ran into Joe Biden. So Ariel bravely asked him questions and asked him his position on Venezuela and asked him to visit the Venezuelan embassy. So let's watch this. Let me make it larger for you.
Nice to meet you. I would like to. I'm really disappointed in the. It's really nice to meet you. I would like to. I'm really disappointed in the position that you're taking on Venezuela. You admitted that you made a mistake with Iraq, and it's dangerous to make the same mistake again, going to war in Venezuela. Absolutely. Do you know what's happening right now at the Venezuelan embassy? Just down the street. Would you come by? Would you come by and take a look? Would you come by down to the embassy and take a look? Shame on so many black people to jail. Shame on you. No one wants you to run for president except corporations. No one wants you to run for president. It's really nice to meet you. I'm really disappointed in
So you really have to give kudos to Ariel Gold for
and it's
1
dangerous
second.
to make the same mistake again.
Trying to close this out. Twitter did this to me the other day too. Ay, bear with me for a sec. There we go. So you really have to give, sorry about that, by the way. You really have to give Ariel Gold some kudos because she did what journalists won't do, which is go up to Joe Biden and ask him direct questions about what's going on and ask him to come to the scene, ask him to come to the Venezuelan embassy. And his answers were interesting. He said we should not be going to war. So you would think that this would be clipped and posted all over the media, but of course it's not. But you can find that on Elena Duarte's Twitter, and you can also find it on Elise Gold's Twitter. Or Ariel Gold, excuse me. Her name is Ariel Elise Gold. You can find that on her Twitter or Code Pinks as well. Last but not least on Venezuela today is Mike Gravel's answer. And he has a great answer on what's happening in Venezuela. Mike Gravel says, no matter what you think of the coup attempt in Venezuela, it's obvious. The U.S. must stay out of it and stop interfering. The same old hawks, Bolton, Abrams, may sacrifice blood and treasure for oil and power. If you're in D.C., please help the embassy protectors of Code Pink. So that's pretty remarkable. That Mike Gravel came out with that. Actually, it's not remarkable for him. It's expected for him because that's the kind of guy he is. But this shows you the difference between Biden and someone like Mike Gravel. Now, I will say Bernie has not been super strong on this, so hopefully he does come around. As I said, I'll have more on Venezuela tomorrow. I'm going to compile some more of the footage I have from the embassy. Right now, I'm going to do another reminder. Smash that like button. Like this live stream for Jordan. It'll make him feel better. It truly will. If he sees lots of likes on this live stream, it'll put a smile on his very sad face. And also, if you become a member at statusquo.com/join, you'll get an even bigger smile. And then maybe he'll send a new picture we can update with a smiling Jordan rather than a sad one. Okay, the last piece that I want to do, because I actually have to get to my son's concert tonight. He's having a singing concert for his class. It's very cute. 3rd grade. So now I can't remember. The last thing that I want to do is Nancy Pelosi's take on running centrists as the way to win and the best path forward. Oh, Nancy. So here's a piece in Truth Out, and it's titled, Nancy Pelosi's winning strategy is to appease centrists. This is by Karen Garcia and Sardanicki. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tells the New York Times that the way to beat Trump is not through impeachment or championing progressive causes. To win, Democrats have to be more friendly to centrists, which is neoliberal speak for the donor and corporate class which owns her organization. If you cower, they, the mythical center of the electorate, will come. Remember how well that smarmy strategy worked out when Neville Chamberlain tried to appease Hitler by granting him permission to invade neighboring countries in the belief that the rest of Europe and capitalist interests would be spared? Even more recently, remember how well that worked out when Pelosi's party thought it would be a great idea to run Hillary Clinton in 2016 and destroy Bernie Sanders at the same time? The polls and the pundits certainly thought she'd be a shoo-in to beat Trump. So let's double down on that winning strategy. If that doesn't work out, it will be all the fault of the deplorables again. If it doesn't work out, Nancy Pelosi personally will never have to suffer, nor will the Democratic donor class, who are flusher with cash than ever, thanks to Trump's tax cuts and their investments in his military machine and prison industrial complex. It's a toss-up as to whether Pelosi's main problem is corruption or senility, or a combination of the two, when she posits that only a boring centrist can win in 2020. This boring individual will win by such a stupendous margin that Trump will never be able to challenge the results. On the other hand, the results of a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren victory could not possibly be stupendous enough to physically scare Trump out of the White House. Only a Biden or Buttigieg or maybe a Harris would triumph in a landslide, which would bury Trump forever and ever. Glenn Thresh reports, sitting in her office with its panoramic view of the National Mall, Ms. Pelosi, the de facto head of the Democratic Party until a presidential nominee is selected in 2020, offered Democrats her cold-blooded plan for decisively ridding themselves of Mr. Trump. Do not get dragged into a protracted impeachment bid that will ultimately get crushed in the Republican-controlled Senate, and do not risk alienating the moderate voters who flocked to the party in 2018 by drifting too far to the left. Own the center-left, own the mainstream, Ms. Pelosi, 79, said. Of course, Pelosi's version of center-left actually skews more towards right of center. She neglects to mention that the moderates who did win their midterm races were heavily bankrolled by the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, which refused financial aid to what she dismisses as the exuberances, including the victorious Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She also neglects to mention that such right-wing Democratic senators such as Claire McCaskill and Heidi Heitkamp lost badly in their own bids for re-election, despite their soulless, valiant efforts to appeal to the mythical center. The tacit message of the Times article is that if Sanders or Warren win, Trump will not go quietly, but he will magically go quietly if Biden wins. So, just to make it clear, what Nancy Pelosi is scared of is that Trump will refuse, if he loses the presidency in 2020, that he'll refuse to leave the White House. The guy's not a king, he'll have to leave the White House if he loses. He might challenge the results, and in fact that's likely if it's close, but he's still not a king. He's not going to just get to stay there. And that's what she's saying. We should vote for centrists so that King Trump can't refuse to leave. It's a very ridiculous argument. If you really want to dig right down to the center of the centrist id, Pelosi doesn't even want a Democrat in the White House. She'd rather dance the triangulation tango with Trump for 4 more years. Pelosi is trying to gaslight the electorate at the same time she dog whistles her reassurances to nervous Democratic Party donors, who have made no secret of the fact that they dread Sanders or Warren in the White House because both these candidates threaten to unconscionably use their power to serve people who don't have as much money as the big donors and the corporate lobbyists do. She claims that if Democrats would just cringe pragmatically and appease Trump now, he will be less nasty and dangerous, less likely to irrevocably poison the minds of the malleable against the Democrats during primaries and the general election. She bizarrely calls this her cold-blooded plan for victory. I'll grant her the cold-blooded part, and I'll even compliment her for having one hell of an overdeveloped lizard brain to go along with all that ice in her veins. Her strategy amounts to pretending to be scared and disgusted by the Trump administration in public, but being complicit with and accommodating to the Trump administration in private. Pelosi seems confident that the actual public is not reading about this cynical strategy in the Times, mostly because they probably can't afford the subscription, despite working several jobs. And if the bottom 80% or so of the reading public are perusing the Times, maybe Pelosi can instill the requisite doubt and fear into their psyches. I doubt that she cares about anybody but her donors. The underlying message to her real constituents is that she's got their backs. She's cold-bloodedly pushing the scales, hers and theirs. One thing to keep in mind about many Times articles and op-eds is that they are essentially telegraph messages from the rich to the rich. But in a show of egalitarianism, they are happy to offer the lesser people a tiny box with which to share their expertise, 1,500 characters or less, with their peers. If you are very lucky, your comment will be accepted by some mystery algorithm and make a point. And make it into print, blanked out for a second. If you write from a centrist, pragmatic point of view, a human moderator is very likely to award you a coveted golden Times Pick icon. This digital badge of honor is the equivalent of a jolt of dopamine and will encourage you to write more centrist and influential comments in the future. So, I think you get the point here. The point is that Nancy Pelosi apparently doesn't know anything about politics at all. She apparently doesn't know anything about America at all. She apparently doesn't know a thing about American citizens. She doesn't know what people need and want and are voting on. For someone who's been in politics for so long, she knows nothing about politics. All right, I'm going to close it off for today. Have some great stuff for you tomorrow. And once again, sympathy pick, like this live stream, it helps more people see it. Become a member, statuscoup.com/join. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.